Hello everyone, welcome to Teluk Intan for a 300km brevet that takes a scenic route through Perak State while also briefly dipping into the northern border of Selangor. It's a wet morning and although the video doesn't show clearly, but there was a slight drizzle as everyone was setting up their bikes and registering for the ride. The elevation profile for the route is what I describe as misleading. At first glance, it looks like there are plenty of climbs with a couple of peaks, but if you look at the actual elevation, the profile never actually goes over 150 meters. I would describe the profile as somewhat similar to riding along the GCE or Max Highway, which is constantly rolling with perhaps a couple of nasty but short climbs, but no extended efforts up into hills or mountains. But make no mistake though, the route isn't as easy as I make it, but it isn't also so challenging as to tax riders to their limit either. So the ride starts at 6 AM, the roads are still wet, but nothing to worry about, at least for now. We have a brief moment of respite before bad weather hits. And there it is, rain. Almost immediately from the get-go, we are drenched in heavy rain. Although it's not too apparent in the video, weather is often not very easy to properly capture and portray especially with limited production on a tiny little action cam. But it was definitely pouring. The rain only began to let up after about an hour or so, but it did not really completely stop. We still had about another hour or a bit more of light rain before it finally stopped. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about using triathlon shoes for randonneering, so as it turns out, the shoes worked pretty well for this ride. So once the sun came up, it didn't really take too long for my shoes and my socks to get reasonably dry. So a major portion of the route goes through quiet countryside roads like this. So the sun is up now, but as you can see, the roads are still quite wet. It rained a lot after all, and it'll take some time for everything to get dry. So once the climbs start, the peloton will naturally fragment and break up. Still, it was a good train while it lasted. I believe we started relatively tame in terms of speed. I think it was around 30 kilometers an hour or so, give or take. But if you've been riding long enough, you know that never sticks. I believe we were hitting at least 35, if not more, before we finally got broken up by the climbs. We are passing over a couple of rivers along the way. So the first checkpoint is in the town of Slim River. Anyone who regularly drives along the North-South Expressway will probably recognize this name, since that's approximately the area where the expressway converges from a 3-lane highway into a 2-lane one, or the other way around depending on which direction you were heading. So it's just a little over 10:15 now. Perfect time for a bit of brunch to keep energy levels up before continuing. Whew, there goes a fast group in aero position for speed. Me though, I'll ride at my own controlled pace, so I'm sticking to the endurance zones for longevity. After all, we are now fully in hot weather territory and there are still plenty of rolling roads to come. So after all the estates and plantations, the road connects back to Federal Route 1, which is sort of an old trunk road for people wanting to avoid the North-South Expressway. So we can still get from Kuala Lumpur to Ipoh and back along this way. It's just slower and you pass through a bunch of towns along the way. But I guess some people prefer it this way than speeding over 100 kilometers an hour along the long and boring expressway. Here we're heading to the Felda Residences hot spring. Though we're not actually there for a bath or sauna. The second checkpoint lies this way and a bunch of riders have already reached it and they're making their way back out. As usual, plenty of rolling here as well, which also often translates to a very nice and fast descent. Though of course this will turn into a climb later on once we turn around and head back out. Here's the checkpoint. There's not much in the way of food here though. It's just there was a small roadside restaurant somewhere just before this place, but here itself we just have a small convenience store which mainly sells things like fruits and snacks and some drinks. I'm not sure how the hot springs are like, but from the pictures that I can find in Google, it looks pretty nice, so maybe a nice place to bring the family, I guess. So ominous dark sky there. Its significance becomes apparent later on. Heading back out now, so pretty overcast skies, so it's good for temperatures. Customary to give a little wave to passing riders. Back on Federal Route 1, we've been on this part of the road a couple of times before during our previous Audax rides. After all, it's the most straightforward way to ride a bike and get from the south to somewhere up north, say Tapa or even Simpang Pulai or Ipoh. Now late afternoon rain, and then it gets even heavier. This is a lot worse than the morning's downpour. It's hard to tell from the video alone, but besides the rain, there was also a headwind to contend with, so I had to stop for a bit until it wasn't too heavy before I could continue again. So this is a rainy ride to Tapa, and then from Tapa there's a turn off the federal route to get to Kampung Cenderiang. Although I didn't film it in this video, but this route passes through a couple of cemeteries during the climb. Here I'm passing through the area while the sun is still up, but I know there are a lot of others behind me, so I'm not sure how it's like to ride through the area after sundown, if you know what I mean. Bumpy descent. It reminds me of Fraser's Hill, so can't really achieve very fast speeds going down here with, you know, all the risks. Some kind of factory. I can't really say what, as I couldn't really find a reference point to check on Google Maps. Third checkpoint is at Malim Nawa town. The town itself is a little bit underwhelming. There wasn't really much in terms of dinner, so I just had to settle for a bunch of light snacks at the 99 Speed Mart convenience store. The group over there is a pretty fast group with several time trial bikes. I didn't manage to get close enough for a more detailed video though, because they quickly headed off right after taking their group photo. The journey from Malim Nawa to Kampa is a pretty scenic one. Aside from that one muddy river, the landscape is dotted by what I can only describe as a vast network of pools and rivers, I guess. I didn't really find much info on the area itself, but I believe these pools are, or at least used to be, former mining pools. Tin mines, to be more specific. Anyway, it was a pretty scenic route, especially under the setting sun. And speaking of the setting sun, yeah, night riding is next. Yeah, unless you're a very fast rider, or at least like one who rarely stops, you know, night riding is pretty much a given for 300km rides. And with that is the end of the ride. So despite the rainy weather, this was a pretty nice and scenic route that's worth riding at least once. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Do give a like or even subscribe, as it helps the channel grow. And I'll see you in the next video. So bye.